How to be a good campaign manager? If that's your question, I'm going to answer it. But I'm going to go one step further. I'm going to teach you how to be a great campaign manager. Stay with me. I want you to picture a building in ancient Rome that still stands, held up by 6 pillars. Because I'm going to explain that is very similar to becoming a great campaign manager, is building those 6 pillars so sturdy, so sound, so well, that they keep your campaign propped up from day one until election night. Grab a pen because this is really useful information. I'm going to start with one of the most important right at the outset. You cannot be a great campaign manager if you do not have a great relationship with your candidate. You are not the star of the show. You are the person who's executing the plan. Never forget that the candidate whose cause you are trying to advance is the most important person in the campaign. Everything is being done to advance that candidate's cause. Now, here is the truth about candidates in public life. They can be prickly. They are human. They can be impatient. They can be just a little bit weird. In fact, that's true of all candidates because normal people don't run for public office. It takes an exceptional human being to actually dare to put themselves out in public. But your job is to treat your candidate like the star of a Broadway show. That means making sure that that candidate has time for family, has time off, has enough rest, looks good when they're out in public, is well taken care of, whose time is never wasted, whose time is never spent on a task that someone else can do. If you do that, you will form a bond with your candidate, because this is what's going to happen during the campaign. You will have bad days. Sometimes staff people make mistakes. You want that relationship to be solid enough that you survive a mistake that may get made without the candidate losing faith in you. The second pillar of a political campaign is the saliency of a campaign message. Now, I have another video where I do a deep dive in how to develop a campaign message. You'll find it on my YouTube channel. And here, I'm just going to mention it briefly to make a larger point. It's composed of what the candidate is going to do for voters. It's what makes the candidate qualified for the job. It's putting the candidate's moral code on display so people know what makes them tick. It's telling voters what makes them better than their opponent. It could be a story that explains why they want this job and their motivation for seeking it. Those are the components of a campaign message, but your job, once you've agreed on this campaign message, is to enforce what we call message discipline, because you're going to be in the hot seat as the one who's got to deal with this, but this is going to happen in a campaign, entirely unpredictable. There's going to be a bad story, or something's going to happen that overwhelms what people are talking about. Imagine the candidates who were plotting their strategy and talking about healthcare and affordability, and all of a sudden there's a war that's dominating the news. That sort of thing may happen in your campaign that kind of throws you off. Your opponent may attack your candidate. There may be a reporter who starts nosing around about to uncover an embarrassing story, and you got to deal with that before it gets published. All of these things can throw a campaign off message. Your job as a candidate is to keep it focused on the message that you have decided that voters need to hear. And it is sometimes very hard when shrapnel is flying around your head to do that, but it is one of your principal responsibilities. You have to be involved in the targeting decisions. So once you have that message, it's a decision of deciding who needs to hear that message. It can't be all things to all people. There's some voters in your jurisdiction that are never going to vote for your candidate. Get used to it. You want to concentrate the resources on those who are likely to vote for your candidate or can be easily persuaded to vote for your candidate when they are provided certain kinds of information. So the targeting decisions that people who go on your target list, the kinds of people that you are going to target on Facebook or Instagram. Your decisions on that are essential to a well-run campaign because proper targeting means you waste less money on people who are not going to vote for you. The next pillar in this is how you are going to disseminate this message. Now, you have the candidate, of course. The candidate's the mouthpiece, the star performer of a campaign. Your candidate's going to give speeches. Your candidate may do press conferences. Your candidate may do photo ops. Your candidate may be in debates. Your candidate could be a star at a town hall meeting. Your candidate may speak at a rally. That is one way to disseminate the message, and it really doesn't cost a lot. The second way to disseminate a message is through a volunteer force and canvassing of your jurisdiction. How do volunteers help you do that? They do lit drops in certain neighborhoods. They do the door-to-door canvassing to discern the attitudes of voters. They help stage rallies. They help staff events. They put up yard signs. There are many things that volunteers can do. In terms of cost, volunteers are a lot cheaper than TV time, and you want to make good use of them. That is another way to disseminate the message. Now we get to the part that costs money, and this is where hard decisions have to be made. What is the most efficient way for you to put ads in front of eyeballs of the people who are on your target list? There's the relatively inexpensive, it's called IP digital targeting. There is cookie digital targeting. There Facebook and Instagram are relatively inexpensive ways to reach an audience. You can do YouTube. There is radio. Sometimes newspapers are used. There are all different kinds of television, everything from commercial TV to cable to streaming TV. These are all ways to disseminate a message, but there's a bill that comes with it. Your job first is to ideally decide what your advertising mix is going to be, and then researching what those things cost to get the information using those means to the voters. Which brings me to the two additional pillars we must address: your budget and your fundraising. Let's talk about the budget. I was recently involved in a very, very competitive election in Texas, brought in to help the campaign manager manage what was for her a first-time campaign. So she called me and said, "All I want you to do is help me." And I said, "Do we have a budget?" She said, "No." And I said, "That's the first thing we need to do here." And I didn't craft just one budget. I crafted 3 different budgets. One was the budget that I would suggest we do if we had plenty of money. The second budget was what we would do if we only had half what we really wanted to spend. And the third budget was one that I crafted to use in case the fundraising fell apart, but what we could still afford to do. I presented all 3 budgets to her, and she says, "We don't yet have enough to do the big budget, but we're partway there. I already know we can do the B budget, And we don't need to worry about the no frills thing. The fundraising's going a lot better than that. The point was that when you have varying amounts of money, it affects the mix of the advertising that you are doing. Later on in the campaign, the fundraising began to get to a point where she called one day and said, we can do your $1 million budget, that one where we're going to be able to do everything we wanted to do. We stuck to that. We did not overspend. There was a great deal of budget discipline put into that because everybody was coming up with different ideas on ways to spend money. But to her credit, she enforced the budget discipline once the budget was in place. How did we figure out to pay for the big budget? Is because after I presented those budgets to her, she said, okay, we want to do the big budget, but we only have $500,000 right now. That means we got to raise another $500,000. Let's develop a fundraising plan to do this. We went out and secured lists of people who were known to support candidates like hers. We started a texting program. We started an email program. We began to reach out to people who had not been asked before, but even more importantly, we then reached out to people who had already given and asked them for the names of people we should call who would do exactly what they did. That's the way we put together the fundraising plan. What I'm saying here is these are 6 pillars. And if you ignore any one of those 6, your campaign will not stand for the duration. So it starts with your relationship with the candidate, your message, your targeting, how you're going to disseminate your money, your budget, and your fundraising plan. That is campaign management. If you would like to know more, I have a gift for you. It's a video called How to Become a Political Campaign Manager. It's in a link below this video. Click on it, grab a pen, and watch it while this material is still fresh in your mind. Incidentally, if you are running for office yourself or wanting to work for a candidate who is, I have the perfect gift for you. It's an ebook. 12 essential steps to prepare for a political campaign. It's yours. All it costs you is a click in the link below. Go get your copy.